podcast.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Guts and Glory MMA podcast. Sorry about the noise there. My name is Liam O'Griffin, and I am joined, as always, by Mr. Paul O.D.
How are things? On today's show, we're going to be talking about McGregor picking up the number one spot in the Forbes Sports Star list, Anthony Johnson getting arrested, Hamzat returning with 4 fights, and we have some new fights booked as well this week.
So there you go, folks. Lots to be getting on with. Let's be getting on.
I want to fight with Chuck. Chuck.
I think he just blew his wad there.
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck.
I didn't quite mess up the intro.
No, that was quite good.
It's alright. It's okay.
One of your better ones.
Right. Are we going to start with Mr. McGregor, or which one do you want to start with?
I think just because there's a load of new fights booked.
Okay.
And we talked about this before, that rule of thumb with the UFC is on a pay-per-view week, there's lots of fight announcements for upcoming events. And this week is no different. There's loads more outside of these, but these are some of the bigger ones that I picked up on this week that have been announced. You have Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland fighting in the middleweight division, which is a banger of a fight.
Wasn't Sean Strickland matched with somebody else? Oh no, they were. Was somebody talking about matching him with Kevin Holland?
That was me.
Okay,
that was my matchmaker episode. Just because they both like to talk shit, I thought that was the ideal matchup. But if Sean Strickland wants a quick turnaround, I'm happy for him not to fight Kevin Holland, because I'm still sticking with the line that Kevin Holland, someone needs to tie him down for 6 months and teach him how to wrestle before he gets back in there. But yeah, it's a good matchup for him, and that's one that'll get him up that division. He's going to be teetering around that number 15, and he's kind of had to defend that number twice in a row now. So it's good for him to get a fight.
But that's a big kind of a step back for Uriah Hall in that, like, the Chris Weidman fight was going to be almost a number one contender fight.
I mean, he wanted to believe it was a number one contender fight, but let's be real.
But this is definitely back a step, though, isn't it?
Is it, though?
I think it is.
Another surging contender against a guy that hasn't done anything in 6 years. In name value, it's a massive step back. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
On name value, there's no disputing Strickland is a step down from Weidman. But I think on merit in the division, I think this is a step up for Uriah Hall. I don't think Weidman, and I touched on this before their fight, I don't think Weidman belonged in the top 15 before they were scheduled to compete. So I think this is a bigger fight for him. I think it's a good fight for both. It's going to be a tough fight for Strickland, and his style, I think Hall is just that little bit kind of longer and a little bit more flashy with his strikes. There's a very good one in the lightweight division, but there's some controversy over this. You have Islam Makhachev is fighting Thiago Moises, another guy that's not ranked. And now Makhachev, he's come out with a statement, and he's saying that everyone above him is ducking him, and these are the reasons that he's fighting guys outside the rankings again. And if that is the case, it's not his fault. But it kind of shows the problems that there is at lightweight. And now we're going to have some of these resolved, hopefully this weekend.
After this weekend, there should be a few of the top. The guys that are ranked up the top should be coming right back down again to give the likes of Makhachev a shot at climbing.
Definitely. And I mean, even Beneil Dariush now, the fact that he's breaking into that top 6 or has the potential to do so, it's showing some slight change in because there's been no change in that top 6 with the exception of Michael Chandler for how long now. But yeah, Makhachev getting another fight that really does nothing for him in those rankings, but it's racking up another win if he does get the win. You have Derek Brunson is matched up with Darren Till.
Nice.
I hope Darren Till gets to the dance this time. But
yeah. He's had a bad run of luck as of late. Like.
Yeah. And it's there's a lot of injuries and a lot of kind of pullouts, and the last thing you want is to become that guy that pulls out of fights regularly. And he's the guy before that would fight anyone. He literally took every contender if they were above him, below him. It's a big fight for him, but that's a tough fight. Derek Brunson, look, Kevin Holland was absolutely abysmal, but Derek Brunson looked as professional as you can get in that fight.
He's the kind of guy that even if you do your best, you're still going to be in a fight that looks shit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So there's no money to be made from a fight with Derek Brunson and everything to lose. Like he could take your hype away from you, you know.
100%. And Kevin Holland, regardless of how shit he was, he's a tough fight because he's a danger on the feet. And Brunson went about his business and got it done quite relatively easily.
So before you move on to the next one there, we want to say hello to Brian from Into Thin Air. Says, I'm alive and, well, thank you for asking. Michael Chandler, a.k.a. Chael 2.0, will be the UFC champ. We'll get to that. Don't you worry.
We'll get
to that. And Aaron Larkin, did you see the rumours of Rockhold and Till came out just before the Brunson fight was made?
Yes.
What was that about?
Yeah. I mean,
that was very strange, wasn't it?
I mean, it looked like they were trying to make that fight. And obviously someone had a little word in Rockhold's ear and said, don't do it. Don't do it. It's a fucking bad idea. You've got a modelling career to worry about. Yeah, look, I couldn't understand that fight when it was being rumoured, so it was just a strange one. Some more fights just to kind of rattle through them there. You've Paulo Costa is going fighting Jared Cannonier, and that is a huge fight in that middleweight division. Obviously, Paulo Costa has had a kind of rough run, but Jared Cannonier was deemed that guy before the Whittaker fight. So I think whoever comes out of that is next in line, possibly behind Whittaker. They might have to fight off against maybe the winner of the Brunson and Till fight, you wouldn't know, but it's an exciting one nonetheless. You also have Johnny Walker is coming back against Thiago Santos. Yeah. And myself and Hulk were talking about this. Johnny Walker is going to be a threat in that fight for 3 minutes. But my God, if it goes past the 3 minute mark, is he going to get fucking butchered?
I don't know. I think Santos after didn't he get beaten up by Glover Teixeira as well? Yeah. Isn't he another one that has PTSD from Glover? You know, Glover is very taking possibly, souls, and Johnny Walker hasn't been touched by Glover's touch of death yet. Yeah. So I think there could be a little bit of just confidence going into that one that could be on Johnny Walker's side as well. And I mean, let's face it, it's not going past 3 minutes anyway. No. And look, that's what Ryan was saying to me. Ryan is excited for this fight, and he said that the first round of that fight is just going to be absolute fireworks. He cannot wait for it. But I'm under the impression if it goes past 3 minutes, I think Walker's in a world of shit. It is a very, very hard fight. Like, I mean, Thiago is huge for this weight. Like, and I know what you're saying about Glover stealing his soul, but I can't get past the the fight with. We have Kevin O'Sullivan outside the window doing burpees just to fucking tease me. Yeah, so I still can't get past Thiago Santos and what he did to John Jones, and I still believe he won that fight on one fucking leg. That's the kind of animal he is over 25 minutes. So we've seen him go past that first round and still look phenomenal, even when he's injured and badly injured. I worry for Walker that he doesn't blow the tank in the opening round, because if it, like you say, either one could go to sleep in a minute, but if it does go along, I think it favours Santos. Yeah. No, absolutely. BK is asking a question. My girlfriend doesn't believe in the significance of weight classes. Could you please tell her that Henry Cejudo on his best day couldn't beat Yoel Romero on his worst? Well, the new Yoel Romero that hasn't been medically cleared might get scuppered by Henry Cejudo.
Yoel Romero is on his worst day. He's fucking down to one eye. So now's the time to book it if you want to find out.
But yeah, no, there's definitely there's a reason why there are weight classes. Yeah. So BK's girlfriend, he's not lying. I mean, there is definitely a huge advantage. And being honest, I don't even think it's weight with Yoel Romero. It's just superhumanness. It's just unfair that you have to fight Yoel Romero with his superhumanness.
If he was Mighty Mouse's size, he'd probably still be doing that to middleweights.
Yeah, he probably would.
No, 100% the weight classes are there for a reason, but it's there are certain guys that have travelled up in weight classes and their power translates and their speed and stuff
maybe one or two divisions, but from flyweight up to middleweight, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So
no, they serve a purpose, all right.
Yeah. Brian replying to BK saying, I feel your pain, bro. I'm always arguing over that stuff. Am I right in saying it's Brian and not Ryan?
Brian.
Yeah, Brian. Okay, that's grand. Aaron Larkin, off-topic question for Liam. Do you have any advice for someone attending the national squad sessions in Cork and Northern Ireland for the first time ever? Advice, just enjoy it. So just for anybody who hasn't a clue what Aaron's asking about there, the national team for MMA in Ireland has a kind of a selection process that includes traveling to or national squad training sessions. So you'll have all the top fighters in the country, people who are trying to get on the national team, and you'll have a good selection of people who are not quite ready yet, but are there for the experience and maybe seeing what they're leaving themselves in for the year to come. So, I mean, advice, like the best advice is just go and soak up the atmosphere. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't assume that you have to get selected on the first go around. Roll with everybody that you can roll with, and ask questions. And and one other small piece of advice as well is make sure that you introduce yourself to the various coaches so that they know who you are, and that they keep an eye out for you for the next session as well. You don't need to be a wallflower when it comes to national squad training sessions, because at the end of the day, if we don't know who you are, we're probably not going to pick you either. So get up there and introduce yourself to the coaches and put yourself out there, and just have the crack. Get to know the team. It's Team Ireland. It's not any individual club. It's one team on the day, so we're teammates. BK, she's cursing you right now. She'll get over it. We'll send her a hoodie or something.
We're well used to it. It's all right. So the last fight I have is in Bellator, and Paul Daly has been matched with Jason Jackson, and that is a phenomenal fight.
What a cracking fight, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's in June.
Who was it that Jason Jackson fought recently? He didn't he scratch his eyeball off something? Was it Neymar Gracie?
Neiman Gracie, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
And he nearly got submitted, acting the fucking langer.
And he nearly scooped out his own eyeball using the chain link fence.
Yeah.
And still won the fight.
But
and it was
gave
controversial.
Up his back, feigning a fucking injury, which we touched on.
Well, I don't think it was feigning an injury. To be fair, he did nearly scoop his eyeball out.
As I said at the time, he was in a fight.
Yeah.
Man up.
MTFU cream. Rub it on that eyeball.
Yeah, so some phenomenal fights being booked for the next 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. They're all kind of in that area. And there's been a lot more outside of that as well, but I'm not going to list every fight that's been announced this week. I suppose we move on to Anthony Johnson being arrested. It's been in the news that he's a professional fighter at his level that's made a lot of money in his day.
Yeah.
To be fair, he was one of the big draws in fought for the title twice, I believe, in the UFC. Fought Daniel Cormier for it.
In the UFC, did he fight? Oh, he did at heavyweight.
He fought once, light heavyweight for the title. Remember, he was supposed to fight Jones.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And then Jones got popped.
Daniel Cormier was at light heavyweight he fought for it, yeah.
So he fought for it once, but he's made a lot of money. And he got arrested shortly after the event in Bellator. They actually came to the arena and arrested him there. So there was a warrant out for him.
Because they saw him live on TV and they said he's definitely there anyway.
Can you imagine? He wasn't celebrating the win. He was fucking himself out of it on the press conference. But can you imagine being in there and then a lot of cops show up and arrest him on the scene?
Yeah.
This is madness for using someone else's credit card.
Yeah.
There's something spurious about that. Like I can't remember who was trying to say. I think it was I was watching the Fight Gods podcast during the week. Shout out to the boys over in the States, but
Mr. Getling.
Yeah, they were saying that perhaps it was one of those situations where he got involved with some young one who was buying him airline tickets, but it was a dude's credit card he was using. It's very suspect.
Yeah, I saw the memes where like the knockout and he was leaning over a man and the meme was like, "No, what's your PIN number?"
It's fucking
the
weird.
internet wins again, boy.
100%, never fails. But it was airline tickets that were bought under someone else's name. But he did it, like, this is the thing. They're saying that whether he's guilty or not, he was on the flight. So he fully accepted that he accepted something that someone else bought, but whether he did it illegally or not,
could have been like his ex-girlfriend bought it and she's doing it to get back at him or something. Like, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here now, but I may be going above and beyond. I mean, the fact that they actually showed up to arrest him, they must have had some good evidence. They don't just gonna come and arrest you and then ask questions later. They usually know what they're arresting you for.
Well, in America, if there's a warrant out for you, they're going to arrest you regardless.
Okay.
And then they'll bring you in for questioning. But I just think the whole thing is fucking strange. There's no way that he's stealing people's credit cards. and using fraud. Like, think about it. He booked the flight in his own name.
Yeah.
Like, if he's a criminal, he's the stupidest criminal ever born. Like, I'm going to steal your credit card and buy a flight in my name. Get the fuck
And then
out
be
of
on
here.
pay-per-view so everybody knows where I'm at.
It's not like I'm just a Joe Soap. Like, yeah, there's something suspect about it. I can't imagine that. I imagine it's someone that bought him an airline ticket as a sponsor or something like that, or something, a deal that just went fucking wrong. Has to be.
So Aaron Larkin was kind of hoping for a Jackson MVP fight, but I'll happily take this one, he says. And Brian says, what a dumbass Anthony Johnson is, unless this is some sort of mistake, but it's fishy. Fishy as hell.
It is fishy. It is very, very fishy.
So Mr. McGregor is the last thing on your list, is it? Or did we already talk about McGregor?
No.
See, my memory is fading me again now.
And there's two things left on the list, but look, we'll
Jesus
touch
Christ.
on McGregor.
All right, go for the first thing that's on the list and we'll finish on McGregor.
No problem. Mr. Hamzat Shemaev.
Oh,
Cue the music.
I've heard.
Not
people
only is he
say
planning a return in August, but he has 4 fights
Too much
lined
of
up.
anything.
In his dream scenario, he has 4 fights lined up. 170 pounds in August, 185 pounds in September, 170 pounds in November, and 185 pounds in December. I mean, he could be
Jesus, you must have had an orgasm when you saw that meme.
he could be dual champion by the end of the year.
That's true. But do you know what? I saw that actually. I didn't remember it, but I do remember seeing that kind of 170, 185, 170, 185.
Yeah.
That's actually quite clever. Like when you
Very
think about it,
clever.
like it means that you can get 2 fights out of every camp.
Yep.
Because you do a weight cut and then you just like you stay in shape and you just don't bother cutting weight the next time.
That's
then you
the
go back in
genius
again.
of it.
Like it's actually very clever.
'Cause
To be fair to him, like
the only month gap is when he's going back down to 170 from 185.
Yeah.
So it's a stroke of genius. If you want to get 4 or 5 fights in a year, that's the way to do it. Because that you don't have to do 5 full training camps. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, it means that also if he just stayed at 185, you could get them as well.
That's true as well. But I think he realizes he's been ranked at welterweight. I think he realizes that's his quickest chance of getting the gold right now. But he does want to stay relevant in both divisions, and he wants to fight often. So it's a smart approach. But like legitimately, I know you give me shit all the time about him, but he's gonna get a big fight. He's going to get a big fight in his return, and I see him fighting for the title in November for 170 pounds.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Brian saying, is it a stroke of genius or is it a genius way to have a stroke?
If he was cutting weight 4 times in 5 months, I would say he might have a stroke. But yeah, no, I think it's very, very clever.
No, I'm
play.
impressed. I'm impressed by that logic, I must say.
And most fighters, the UFC would just dismiss this and go, look, worry about your first fight.
Yeah.
But there's been precedent set already where they tried to book him in a fight before the Gerald Mearshart fight actually happened. So they know what the guy is capable of. And if you go back to when he did make his debut, he actually made his debut at 185 pounds and 2 weeks later fought at 170 pounds. So the weight cutting isn't a big issue for him. I imagine he walks around in and around that 185 like. So yeah, I can't wait. I'll be
You have your lube bought and all, I see.
100%, yeah. I have my Chechnyan flag ready to go. So the final thing on the list is Mr. McGregor, tying in with this weekend's fight, I suppose. McGregor, and I watched a video of him back in 2016, where he was talking to Cristiano Ronaldo,
Yeah.
and he was number 38 on the Forbes list.
Yeah.
And Ronaldo was kind of like almost being a little bit kind of I won't say he was patronizing him, but he was kind of like, oh yeah, that's great, yeah, well done kind
That's
of thing.
cute.
Yeah, and Ronaldo, of course, that year was number 1.
Yeah.
And McGregor was there, and he, of course, doing all this, like, looked like he was ready to fight him, and he was like, I'll be number 1, don't you worry, I'm coming for that number 1 spot. I mean, for a guy to go from absolutely broke to 8 years later, be number 1 paid sports star over the course of 12 months is insane. And if you look at the list, they brought out the list of the names that are on that list. You have Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Kevin Durant, basketball. You have, what's your man's name? The quarterback. Peyton Manning, Eli, one of them. I don't know. I don't follow enough fucking other sports.
Brian will tell us here, I'd say.
But yeah, like, I mean, list of legends across every sport, and he's top on that list. It's insane.
It's
and
insane.
it does show people are saying the MMA fighters aren't paid enough. If you do it right, you're going to get fucking paid.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, but the thing is that he hasn't made his money out of MMA. He's made his money from using what he has, the image that he's created in MMA, and then worked his ass off signing up like the various different deals that he's got. And he hasn't just put all his eggs in one basket either. I mean, he didn't just go to Versace and sign a clothing deal and then walk away and not do it. Like, he came up with his own clothing line, then did the whiskey, then did his, like, he's got some acting gigs on the go, he's got some talking gigs on the go, he's got some apps, he's got the McGregor Fast, he's got the Mac Fast.
There's a game now
the
as well.
Mac Life.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, like, he's earned his money through absolute just fucking workhorse mentality. And the other thing as well is that, like, at the end of the day, I know he hasn't got the title right now, and he's working his way back to the title, and the last couple of fights haven't panned out or what have you. But has he really won the whole fucking game anyway, regardless?
He won the game when he fought Floyd Mayweather. 100 million. I'm going to point to this when I'm an old man. He was 0-0 in boxing, and he got paid over 100 million to fight. That's, you're bigger than the sport. You're bigger than boxing, which is another sport. Like, so he's already a bigger star than the sport of MMA or the sport of boxing. And there's no, he could retire this year or retire next year. People will talk about the end of his career, and people will have question marks that he never defended a title to this point. But at the end of the day, I think he'll be laughing.
He doesn't give a shit. Like, he really doesn't.
I do think he cares about his legacy, but
100% he cares about the legacy. But at the end of the day, I think he'll get over that. You know, he'll get over that with a whiskey in hand at some point. You know,
with a couple of 100 million, several 100 million in the back.
It's going to be $1 billion pretty soon, I'd say.
Well, they estimate now it's around 600 million.
Crazy
net worth.
Crazy.
Insane.
And like we all like, you know, when you go back in his career, and like he talked about becoming like a champion in a certain amount of time within the UFC, and everybody was like, you know, no, slow down, settle down, little Irish guy.
Yeah,
you know, he proved everybody wrong. Then he went up a weight class and did it again, proved everybody wrong. Got the Mayweather fight. I mean, that the fact, like, everybody was like saying that's never going to happen. Like, even right up until like 12 weeks before it actually happened, everybody was like,
the top journalists in the world laughed this off.
Yep.
I was writing about the sport at the time, and I too laughed it off. I didn't even publish a lot of the stuff that was going on and the rumours and all that, because I was like, look, let's be real about it. It's probably not going to happen.
But then when he did have the Mayweather fight, and he did make the big money payday, he then said $1 billion next, and it was you know, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, and here he is 2/3 of the way there, and no sign of slowing down. I mean, like, you know, he no matter what he turns his hand to, and at this stage, is going to pop a couple of million easy, or a couple of tens of millions, or a couple of hundreds of millions. Do you know, a couple of smart investments, and he could be like knocking Bill Gates off the richest men in the world list in about 5 or 10 years time.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but that we're talking multiples of billions there.
Yeah, but like, it's the same thing as, like, we talk about this on YouTube followership. Once you get for orders of magnitude are like, even though they seem like huge goals, but once you have the momentum, it is an exponential growth.
But the likes of the top guys, Elon Musk, what's your man's name?
Jeff Bezos. Or Jeff Menzos, depending on who you ask.
Jeff Bezos just needs to stop getting fucking divorced, and he'll continue on the rise. But they're earning what McGregor has now in a year. Do you know what I mean? So they're still incrementally rising as well. Their wealth is still rising. So until that plateaus, he's never going to catch up. I don't think he would ever catch up with the top guys. But as far as sports stars, he could end up being the top earning sports star of all time very easily. Very easily. I think Floyd Mayweather is the top earning of all time at the moment.
He can't afford a haircut, though.
Yeah, I know. Like, what the fuck is wrong with Floyd Mayweather? He's earned probably $1 billion at this point. He's earned over $1 billion, and the dude is in massive debt. It's insane. insane shit.
It's just like he's getting money hand over. Like every time he goes to fight, he gets these huge chunks of money. Conor is getting money and then investing it wisely.
Yeah. He's
there's a
making his
difference.
money work for him. Like
Yeah.
At no point has he earned his 10 million, and that's why he's spending. And like a lot of people say he has flashy shit and all that. Most of that shit is given to him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll be worth a lot of money when it's all said and done. That's for sure.
So Brian is just confirming that it's Tom Brady or Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
One of those Skull and Bones members. Then he's asking, you guys see the video of Dillashaw and Cody shaking hands and hugging after the 25th anniversary UFC press conference after trashing each other? I just saw it, but I don't know if it's new.
Well, the 25th anniversary was 3 years ago, so I can't imagine it's new unless it's just being leaked now. But that's strange. I felt like that was real. Do you know what I mean? Even the shit with TJ Dillashaw, I felt like there was nothing forced there. I thought that was real dislike towards each other.
Also asking, is the Colby Masvidal beef possibly being fake?
I don't think there's much fake about Masvidal either, to be perfectly honest. I would 100% believe it Colby and someone else. But Masvidal, I mean, we've seen what he did to Leon Edwards. You don't fake that. Guy just eyeballed him and said something smart in a corridor, and he went over and started punching him in the face. Like,
yeah, the old 3-piece in a soda.
Yeah, he's not a guy that's going to make up a beef to sell pay-per-views. He's a guy that if he has an issue with you, he's going to say it or punch you in the face multiple times.
Aaron Larkin asking, most of the athletes on that list made the majority of their money through wages from their sport. Conor certainly has not. Massive respect. That's the thing. That's the point. Like, it's
no, and that's actually a misnomer as well, because most of those guys on the top 10, only about maybe 20 to 30% of that are actually salaries. The rest are on sponsorships. And yeah, McGregor doesn't have the same sponsorship draw he probably does have that draw that the rest of them have, but that's not where he earns his money. He earns it through business. And there's a lot of guys in that list as well that have businesses, and that's all included in that Forbes money list. It's how much they made throughout the year, not on purses or on wages or salary or anything like that.
Aaron or Brian adding, here's a fun fact: the richest 1% of the world owns 99% of the world's wealth, while the other 99% split the last 1%.
And it's actually less. That fact is from a few years ago. It's actually more like 0.7% now. The rest of the 99% have, because of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. They reckon between the two of them, they're consuming the rest of the, like, over the course of the last 6 years, they've consumed between the two of them 0.3% of the rest of the world's wealth. Well, between a group of about 10 of them, but it's mostly those two.
Yeah. There we go. So
insane.
Yep. So look, we're half an hour in. We haven't talked about a single fight yet. But well done to Mr. McGregor anyway, of course. Our own countryman, so we're never going to not back him. But I mean, even if he wasn't our own countryman, we'd still be impressed by his business acumen and just his work ethic.
Listen, if someone in MMA is earning huge money, we're going to be delighted for him. It's the sport we love, sport we follow. So,
yep, absolutely.
Speaking of McGregor, it's a nice segue into our main event on Saturday night. And we have the lightweight title finally on the line after, well, I suppose it's not actually that long since Khabib defended the belt. The problem is, of course, we knew he was retired then. It should have been on the line within 3 months of that, and it wasn't. But it's good to see, and we talked about that the division can move on now.
Yeah. And
there's going to be a massive fallout after this weekend, and then, of course, we hit July. It's more, and it's not just the main event, the co-main event as well. What are you looking for in the main event? Who do you fancy in it?
I think so obviously Oliveira, phenomenal grappler. I mean, he's on is it a 7 or 8 fight win streak he's on at the moment?
8.
So, but see, the thing is that, like, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, you're going to have to get the guy down, and Chandler's extremely difficult to get down because he's usually the guy trying to take you down. And then you have that explosive striking from Chandler. It's going to cause everybody problems, like everybody. He's just such a risk early on. I don't see like Oliveira being able to catch him and knock him out. No. It's going to have to be a grappling win from Oliveira, and I think that Chandler's going to be too difficult to take down.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, he's going to get his bell rung at least a couple of times if not put away.
So yeah, I'm on the same page. My concern with Oliveira, and I know that it's unfair to go back so far, but if you look at the start of his UFC career, he traded wins and losses, and look, he was very young and he was still learning the sport. But there was a lot of finishes. He got finished 7 times, 3 submissions and 4 knockouts. And you look at some of the guys that finished him with strikes. You've Cub Swanson, you've Max Holloway, Paul Felder and Donald Cerrone. And none of, they're all very good strikers, don't get me wrong, and Holloway probably one of the best that we've seen in MMA. But none of them have that real big knockout power. They're not really noted for it. They're guys that like to bang and put a lot of punches on you. And if they're guys that are putting Oliveira away or have done previously, I don't think Oliveira's ever been hit by a guy that hits as hard as Chandler. I think Chandler is going to worry him very early. He's going to shoot for takedown. And like you, I don't think... In the wrestling exchanges, I think he's outmanned. On the feet, I think he's outgunned. And look, I think Chandler would be mistaken to take him down in this fight, because I think that's Oliveira's best route to victory, is actually off his back and trying to turn things around and get a submission. Yeah.
Plus, I think it kind of really makes money for Chandler when he scores these knockout wins, you know?
Yeah. For the sake of the division, it would be better that Oliveira picked up the belt, just based on Chandler coming in and he's 2.5 minutes in the UFC, and he's probably going to be champion. But I actually can't see any way in this that Oliveira picks up a victory. I'd be relatively confident in saying Chandler puts him away. And Oliveira is probably the biggest threat to some of the other guys like Dustin Poirier and McGregor. Stylistically, he's a horrible matchup for those two, but I don't think Chandler is.
Yeah, just because of the strength and of being able to stay off the ground if he wants to. He controls the arena of the fight. The Ferguson and Dariush fight. We had a little bit of back and forth on this just before we came on air, but what's your take?
I think Beneil Dariush walks away with a decision win here. And it's not so much that I think Tony Ferguson is finished. I think he's on the decline, and he's certainly over the crest of the hill from his very, very best. And we saw that in the Oliveira and the Gaethje fight. And he took a lot of punishment in those 2 fights, and it's tough to watch a guy take that much punishment and get back in there and take that much punishment again back to back. But I even look at the 12-fight win streak.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going back over the win streak. I mean, Pettis stopped with a broken hand.
Yeah.
I can't remember how that fight was going.
They were both bloodied up quite a bit. Even go back as far as the Lando Venata fight there. Lando Venata gave him problems, wobbled him a couple of times in that first round. He ended up pulling off a submission. And that's the thing with Ferguson. He's in these wars, he's in these exciting fights, and he's unorthodox and he's flashy and he's exciting, and he gets it done, and he got it done 12 times in a row. But if you go back past Dos Anjos, and with the exception of Barboza maybe, there's no one that jumps off that page that you can say is a legit person or a legit contender there in the lightweight division. And maybe even some of those top guys, the last few that he beat, were guys that were either on their way up to 170, on their kind of way out of the rankings. I'm not saying Tony Ferguson isn't an elite 155er, but I don't think he's as good as we made him out to be. I always said that he was possibly Khabib's kryptonite, but that was purely based on the grappling off his back. And I thought he might have had an edge there. But I think if he comes up against an elite striker, an elite wrestler, or an elite jiu-jitsu player, all 3 beat him. And I think Dariush puts his grappling together very, very well. And I don't think the scrambles are going to do much for Ferguson in this fight.
So I didn't see the press conference, but I heard that Tony Ferguson got right into Dariush's head, and that Dariush's body language was very nervous in the aftermath. Is there any truth to that?
Dariush looks like he's half asleep most of the time. I didn't see that part of it.
Sure.
I only watched the highlights of it. There is something to it. You can, we know that the mental warfare is a thing.
McGregor has broken people on the
dais, yeah, 100%. but Ferguson, he just talks so fucking much shit, and it's all weird and nonsense.
Cringy shit, yeah.
I can't imagine he got into Dariush's head. Dariush seems like a guy that's just kind of journeyman-like about his career, but very unjourneyman-like about his skills. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I can't. Again, I'm going back to the Chandler fight here. I can't see a route to victory for Ferguson in this fight.
Yep, in agreement. So, Bendu said it's in the building. Hey, fellas, what's the crack? Is it Friday fish day or whatever the hell it is in the kitchen? Say hello to everybody in the kitchen for us. Aaron Larkin, Oliveira's 8-fight win streak really puts Tony's 12-fight win streak into perspective. Tony never got his shot due to bad luck. Really rooting for Oliveira.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by, for the sake of the division, you'd like to see Oliveira lift it, but I can't see it. And again, I even look at the 8 fights that Oliveira's had to get to this point. And look, to win 8 fights in the UFC in a row is a huge fucking thing. To win 12 is better. But the caliber of guys you're fighting
it
makes
matters.
a difference.
100%.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
And
the manner in which you win makes a difference as well. If you've taken a beating for half the fight and then you pull off a submission towards the end, it shows you've got heart, but does it show that you're the best in the division? Yeah. Aaron Larkin asking, did you see Tony taking an issue with Beneil because he helped Gaethje prepare for their fight? I didn't see the press conference and I didn't notice that.
Didn't see that either.
I mean, is he really salty about it, or is he just trying to be aggressive and get inside Dariush's head? You know, is he trying to play a game there and be aggressive and kind of swing his Mickey around?
But Tony Ferguson's such a fucking weird dude. He's put out some weird shit over the last few days. Like he tweeted at Michael Chandler that he just walked past Charles Oliveira in the hallway and mentally broke him by walking past him. This is the guy that whooped him about 6 months ago, and he tweeted.
Well, he said he had him broken in the fight as well. Remember he said that?
Yeah, he's
after getting whooped. Like. Yeah, he's just not the full Bob. Like, too much weed in him, I'd say.
Too much something. Anyway, yeah. Bendu said Dariush has found his stride this time around, and I think he's too good with his defensive jiu-jitsu and won't get caught sleeping on the ground. Aaron Larkin said, I think it was mainly Tony speculating that Dariush looked nervous. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And Kevin, it was actually Kevin that said it to me actually outside here in the reception. He said that Dariush was taking some deep breaths before and after the face-off. So Kevin was commenting that his body language was very nervous, as if it was somebody who had been mentally broken.
Jeez. Yeah, I watched one of the first episodes of UFC Embedded for this week. I used to watch them all the time, but I haven't been watching them of late. But there was a bit about Dariush and flying in. He likes to get in early, fight week, whatever. And he flew in with the wife. And he just seems like the most relaxed, calm. So maybe there's something to it. The fact that if he was heavy breathing and he was whatever. Because he doesn't look like he's phased by much.
Yeah.
He just kind of looks like everything's kind of flows off him kind of way. Like he doesn't... I don't know. But maybe if you... I'm going to have to go back and look at it. But...
The other thing as well is that sometimes, do you know there's a time when, okay, you're training for a fight, but really where you switch mentally into, okay, now I'm fighting.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be like, for we were talking about this actually when we were at the IMAS a few years ago. I was interviewing Ryan for a vlog, and while he was getting his hands wrapped, I was saying, is this the point where you start getting nervous? And he was like, no, this is actually not where I get nervous. I'm relaxed here. When I get nervous is when there's 2 fights before I go out, and I know that it's coming, and then I switch. Do you know? So maybe it's a case that for Beneil Dariush that the fight doesn't actually start till they have the pre-fight stared on, and that he's just kind of switching mentality, switching modes. Now that's just speculation without having seen the video, so I don't know. I could be talking through my arse. I regularly am. So,
but it makes sense. Everyone's got a point where they get themselves psyched up and where they kind of mentally switch. But yeah, look, for me, if it's a guy that's trash talking and they're making great points and they're picking holes in someone's game on the days, I get it. You can mentally break a guy. But when it's Tony Ferguson, he's just talking waffle and talking through his hole.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that's mentally breaking someone. I can see you getting just.
He's not the
fucking
most
annoyed by it.
intimidating guy either. Like, it's not like a Khabib staring you down and he's about to smash you.
Yeah.
Do you know, or it's not like a Brock Lesnar going to fucking bite you or something like that. Or do you know what I mean? It's just Tony Ferguson being goofy, and he's not going to do much apart from do weird shit and maybe fuck you up and get you in a darts choke or something. Do you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't imagine it being Dariush breaking mentally, but
Time
I'll
will
have
tell.
a look. So the next one is two flyweights fighting at bantamweight. I know nothing about these two guys, so I'm going to let you carry the torch on this one.
Yeah, Matt Schnell against Rogerio Bontorin. And this is one of those where Rogerio's on a 2-fight skid, but it was to Ray Borg and Kai Kara France, two really tough guys in that division. Previous to that, he was on a 4-fight win streak. And he's a finisher as well. A lot of submissions on his record. And he's going in against Schnell, who's had a bit of a rocky road in the promotion, 6-4 overall in the UFC. The win over Nam, and previous to the loss to Pantoja, he was on a 4-fight win streak as well. I think momentum is a little bit on Schnell's side just based on that, but Bontorin does possess a big threat here. My concern with Bontorin is he's only 4 fights deep into his UFC career, and he seems to be throwing a lot of like really tough guys right now, and Schnell is exciting. And coming off two tough losses to big guys in that division. I don't think Schnell's the guy you want to fight, who's going to bring the fight to you, be in your face, be very unorthodox, be throwing wild shit and mixing things up.
Like potentially he could get cut off this fight. Like,
yeah, and that's just it. You want to go in against a guy that you can make a good game plan to win the fight, as opposed to go out and, you know, there's fights where you want to go out and make a statement, and there's fights where you want to go out and get the W. And Schnell's not a guy that you can go out and just plan to get a W. The fight could go anywhere. I think it's a very tough fight. I just lean with Schnell just based on experience in the UFC. He's fought a lot of tough guys, and that loss to Pantoja was a split decision. And Pantoja is kind of one of those guys that you really need to keep an eye on in that 25 division. Himself and Askar Askarov, for me, are the two guys to be. They're probably next up for whoever wins the Figueiredo and Moreno fight. So yeah, Schnell's kind of thereabouts. I think he'd probably pick up a win in this one, but it'll be an exciting fight.
and then the last fight on the main card then is the two ladies at flyweight, Caitlin Chukagian, the forever bridesmaid, as we described her just before the podcast came on. So and then she's up against Vivian Araujo. Again, I know nothing about these two girls, but
you've picked a winner, haven't you?
Of course I picked a winner, but that wasn't based on their fighting ability.
Liam takes one look at Araujo's photo. Yeah, she's winning.
Come here, there's people background checking me at the moment.
I know. What the
Wished.
fuck? Yeah, deep diving on Liam. Yeah, look, Araujo came in. She's looked impressive, but she's still a little bit green. She's got very good striking. She has some submission victories, but her big game is her striking. She looks impressive, but Chukagian, like we said, she's always the bridesmaid. She's probably never going to break that top three.
Yep.
But she beats off a lot of these contenders, and she's a big problem for a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'd struggle to see Araujo beating Chukagian. If she does, it's a possible matchup for Shevchenko, but yeah, no, I can't see Chukagian getting beaten this.
Really? Yeah, I'm kind of going with Araujo on it, just based on Caitlin just being in meh.
Just based on her photo?
No, she's a fine looking girl. Let's not denigrate her at all. But no, I'm just thinking, like, even like the only person that's a loss on Araujo's record over the last while is Jessica Ai.
Yeah,
a very, very strong wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's beaten Modafferi, who is also another girl that's, I mean, Modafferi is tough, but she's kind of almost a bridesmaid again, kind of similar to Chukagian.
Yeah.
So, you know, she can certainly mix it up with the girls who are not the top three, we'll say, and come out with wins. So I don't see a problem with her beating Chukagian, but I just don't know enough about either of them to make an educated guess apart from aesthetics.
I'm just, there's a precedent set here in that Chukagian, if you look at some of her notable wins over the last 4 years, Cynthia Calvillo, Antonina Shevchenko, Irene Aldana, Lauren Murphy, Jennifer Moya, Joanne Calderwood, all girls that are clamouring for that next shot at the title.
Right.
And Chukagian goes, no. Back behind me. I'm going to have another crack at the title. And she seems to have to fight all these contenders, but she swatted most of them away to this point. The only one that got through in the last few is Jessica Andrade, and she ended up competing for the title. So a win for Araujo does get her a title shot. That seems to be the kind of
the formula.
The formula, but it's a very tough fight. Chukagian's very good everywhere, but she's not excellent anywhere, if that makes sense.
So that's the main card of 262. Is there any of the undercard fights that stand out for you?
I think Burgos and Barboza are actually on the main card as well.
You are right. I've just read it wrong. Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, that's going to be my fight of the night.
Yes.
I think that is a fucking phenomenal fight. Burgos never takes a back step.
No. And neither does Barboza. Well, he does, but he kicks you while he's going backwards, and it's just a nightmare. It's like walking into a whirlwind of machetes.
Yeah, and you were on about Burgos being huge for this division. We know Barboza's a huge guy for 145. I was talking about Brian with this on the Pro and Predictions, and he was saying that he's met Barboza before, and this was going back years ago.
Yeah,
and he was looking him up and down, kind of going, "How the fuck does that guy make 155?"
Yeah,
and he's fighting at 145 now.
Yeah.
It's like he's apparently a huge guy, but then again, most people are huge guys to Brian Moore, but he'll fucking...
I'm glad you were the one.
Yeah, he'll fucking kill me for saying it, but it's the truth. But they're both huge guys for the division, and we were actually talking about, and I don't know, maybe you have an opinion on this, would Barboza, considering the likes of Barboza and Aldo, two guys that are noted for their leg kicks and their vicious kicks, do you think they'd ever switch it up down to the calf and kind of train themselves? Brian was kind of saying he'd love to see it and the damage they could do if they decided to do it. But is it a case that these are guys that have probably repeated that kick 100,000 times in training? Are they going to try and change the formula now this late in their career?
I don't think so. I mean, a change of a target is not. It's not like you have to change the direction that your hips swivel, or you have to change like a huge fundamental standard within your game. It's just changing the target. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't do it unless they've tried it and they didn't find it effective for them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you could say, why doesn't everybody do the overhand right that Ryan Nelson did as well? It works for Ryan Nelson and doesn't for everybody, you know.
But then you're putting it in a situation where you're saying someone has devastating power in their right hand. It might work for them.
Yeah.
I think that's the argument. These guys are noted for their leg kicks. Can you imagine the damage they do if they start kicking the calf? They get you out of there in 2 kicks.
They probably would do that damage. Although I still think that calf kicks are easier to check than
that's
leg
what
kicks.
I said. I think that's going to be a concern going forward.
Yeah. Like literally all you've got to do is turn your shin outwards, and you don't even have to take your foot off the floor, which takes time. Do you know, when you check a regular leg kick, you have to take your foot right up and point it outwards and open your hip and everything like that.
Yeah.
You literally, the same action that it would be to stub out a cigarette butt, just do that.
Yeah.
And your shin is now pointing in the direction of the kick. And we just saw what happened Weidman. That's going to happen to someone, and it's more likely to happen on a calf kick because when you kick somebody who's checked the kick, their foot is free flowing in air.
Yeah.
So there's some sort of movement there. You kick that leg, that foot is going to travel a little bit.
It's going to want to continue going. Yeah.
But when the blocking foot is bolted to the floor, there is no give. There is no give in that checking leg, and it's going to do damage. I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet. McGregor did check 1 or 2 of the kicks from Poirier by turning his shin out. Didn't seem to work. I don't think he twisted quite far enough.
Yeah.
But I've seen Gaethje doing a tutorial on how to block calf kicks, and he literally just did that. He turned his foot outwards. That was literally it. And I don't know, was it before he started doing the leg kicks?
These are
to a certain
vicious as well.
Yeah, but his is just like kind of that kind of real kind of farm boy strength going behind the leg kicks, isn't it?
He can kick you from the clinch and hurt your legs.
Yeah, it's a kind of an awkward angle as well as being a heavy kick. Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know. I think I would have to agree with you though that this is definitely going to be one of the fights of the night. I can't pick a winner on this. I would only go on experience and go with Barboza just because I know him longer, and but Burgos has good momentum coming in as well. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Well, outside of the loss to Josh Emmett, but the one thing I would say, Barboza's first trip down when he fought Dan Ige, I think it was his first fight at 145, he didn't look himself.
it was probably more to do with the weight cut, though, wasn't it?
Exactly, and he's possibly too big for the division.
Yeah.
But you look at him, and you touched on the performance against Makwan Amirkhani.
Yeah.
That looked like the Barboza of old, because we know he was having some difficulties at 155 as well, and he was being pushed out of that top 10. If he can kind of claim his place in that 145 division, he's going to be a real problem down there.
Yeah.
So I think if we get to see that version of Barboza, he certainly wins the fight. I think if a lesser version of Barboza shows up, I'd go with Burgos, but I'd be hedging towards Barboza myself as well.
So Aaron Larkin saying Chookagian is a good benchmark for the division. She doesn't really change her style, and if you can overbear her style, then you are entering the title picture.
Yeah.
Brian says, I'm devastated from the waist down. Or no, he's devastating from the waist down.
What the fuck is he talking about?
No idea, mate. He said the old hall leg plant. I'm not sure what that is either. Do you know, I'd love to be in Brian's head for just a couple of minutes and just have a look around.
I don't think you would. I really don't think you would. He comes out with some fucking one-liners though.
Aaron Larkin says, Justin says that his leg kicks are so good because he has insanely dense bones. Yeah, you can see that. He is thickly muscle. Do you know when people who are overweight say, I'm not fat, I'm just big boned? He's actually big boned.
I'm big boned.
Yeah, of course you are.
I'm just big everything.
Obviously with other things, but that's a big part of it. 100%. I think he does have very, very thick calves and wrists, and he's just a unit. Like, he's a unit.
He looked. Some of those guys just look like they're built differently. The thing with Aldo and Barboza and their leg kicks and the infamy behind them, those guys played football all their lives from 3 or 4 years old right up. Even when they started fighting, they were still playing football.
Yeah,
and it's not so much the power they can, it's just the technique of kicking.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darren Till in the same boat. Darren Till used to play soccer as well. And
he played at a semi-pro level, didn't he, Darren Till? Or
I
one of them
don't know
did.
that for sure, but there was definitely a lot of soccer in there anyway.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised more of the UK and Ireland guys, considering football is kind of one of the main sports kids were playing, that they're not better at the leg kicks. I suppose it's just training them.
So any on the undercard that stand out to you?
There's a few fights on the undercard I'm excited for. You have Mike Grundy, who's SBG Manchester, is taking on Lando Venata, and Lando Venata famously came into the UFC on short notice to fight Tony Ferguson and nearly took him out in one round. We kind of touched on that earlier, but since then it's kind of been, he's prone to a spectacular performance followed by 2 shit ones. So you don't know what your stories coming from Manchester about Mike Grundy and his wrestling. Apparently he's going to be a very, very, very big problem at 145 pounds. Now, there are some... This is what I'm looking forward to. So if his wrestling is really that good, I want to see him going against one of those really good American wrestlers at 145 pounds and see how that fares out against them. But for someone the likes of Lando Venata, who likes to throw spinning stuff and is kind of a bit wild on the feet anyway, I think this is a perfect style matchup for Mike Grundy to go in and pick up a decision victory here. I don't think it's going to be massively impressive. He could get a TKO, maybe ground and pound, but he'll just be looking for a win in that one. But for name value, it's a good fight for him, for sure.
Yep.
Elsewhere, you do have Valentina's sister is fighting on that, Antonina Shevchenko.
It's not even Antonina, it's Valentina.
That's a secondary to Valentina's sister, yeah. And she's fighting Andrea KGB Lee, who's looking to make some kind of resurgence from when she first got on the scene with UFC. I'm just not sold on Andrea Lee. I don't think she's cut out for it at that level anyway, UFC level. And there's a little thing in my head there. This is kind of a gimme fight for Shevchenko. She's the champ's sister, and
They want to build her up a bit,
yeah. So I imagine that Shevchenko gets a relatively easy fight, or has a relatively easy night there. There's the Jamie Pickett versus Jordan Wright fight as well at middleweight. These are two guys that came off Dana White Contender Series. Jordan Wright looks damn impressive so far, but Jamie Pickett's the guy that, remember that I was talking to before, the 22 punch finishing combination, the opening 33 seconds in Dana White Contender Series.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I just have no memory of it.
We talked at length about it before, but yeah.
As I say, no memory of it. My brain is fucked.
Yeah, but he has devastating power and he has that killer instinct. But I think he's outmatched here with Jordan Wright. I think Jordan Wright is actually a contender in the 185 division. He just needs a few fights like this one to kind of build himself up. And you have Gina Mazzani versus Priscilla Cachoeira as well, another flyweight matchup that's interesting in relation to the division, because I think Cachoeira with another couple of wins gets close to the top of that division. So,
yeah.
But we talked about this for a pay-per-view card. It's not the most exciting.
Yeah, it's not a great card. Like considering the cards that we've had, like from Bellator in the last couple of weeks, from like the previous UFC cards that we've had in the last couple of weeks, and even the PFL cards for name value. I know the last PFL card was a bit of a wet squid, but the name value on it. This one, I mean, this could be a fight night.
I mean,
if you take out the
I was just going to say I wouldn't be telling that to any of the lightweights at the top of it.
But I mean, like, yeah, there's no superstars on there.
I'll tell you this though.
Biggest name on there is probably Tony Ferguson.
Let's say they book or let's say alternate universe, they book McGregor Poirier, and that's for the belt, and this one isn't, but they booked the fight anyway. So there's no belt on the line. That exact card.
Yeah.
Is it a fight night card then? Very possibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is a very good question. That's actually the perfect way to look at it.
So the belt makes it a pay-per-view.
So we're paying for this fight because of the belt.
That arguably neither of them should be in this fight, because Gaethje, Poirier ranked above them, and Khabib is the retired champ.
Yeah.
If one of them got it, it would have been a bit of a gimme. Less so with Oliveira, but strange one. But are we being a little bit pissy because we've been completely spoiled by the UFC this year?
Oh, totally, 100%. We're total piss artists.
If you look at twice this year, we've had 3 title fights. Twice this year, we've had 2 title fights, and we're only in May. We're probably giving out a little bit too much.
But you see, like, we're not just spoiled from the UFC, we're spoiled from Bellator as well. You know,
Yeah.
Bellator keep putting on these stacked cards.
And they have another belt on the line again next week.
Yeah.
In another phenomenal card. So that's last week and next week. They're kind of competing with 262 in a way. Which look, I'm not going to complain about having lots of big cards and big title fights, but it seems like the UFC are kind of under pressure to keep up the big, huge cards. And I said at the start of this year when they started booking all those fights for March and April, there was, I think, was there 8 title fights on the line in those 2 months?
Yeah.
And I was like, they're going to have a real problem come the start of the summer trying to get guys booked for big cards.
Yep.
And it seems like we're just seeing the after effects of that now. I think come July it starts to go back to normal and everyone's kind of coming back and ready. But I think for the next couple of months, look at strong cards from Bellator and PFL to be really competing.
Yeah, so there we go. I think that's pretty much everything. Have we got any more comments that I can bring in there? Brian forgot that combo, the 22 punch combo.
Yeah, that was insane, right?
You have reminded him of that. So yeah, no, it was insane. I still can't remember it.
If you go back and watch it, you'll remember it immediately what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, so there you go. So what we have a bit of content coming out in the next 6 hours.
I mean, hopefully in the next 6 hours.
Yeah, so myself and Brian are going to be editing like fiends for the next like 6 to 12 hours. So we've got 2 videos that are coming out in the next 12 hours. One is the behind the tapes, the Andy Hickey stats for UFC 262. He's got some crackers, as he always does. And then you have a video from Thomas Lanigan. What's that one about?
It's one of the story type videos that we've had out the last couple of weeks. There was a fantastic one last week on Diego Sanchez. If you've missed that, go check it out. I think it's a phenomenal way to tell his story, and it hits all the main points of his career.
Yeah, it's called A Living Nightmare.
Yeah, and this week he's done a fantastic one as well on Tony Ferguson, which is going to be a banger as well. So I'm looking forward to getting that one out.
Sweet. And of course we have the review show on Sunday, and then back to regular schedule then from Monday on again with your matchmaker.
No, I think we're matchmaker's gone for the foreseeable.
Okay, all right.
I was getting pissed off that they weren't making my matches.
Yeah. You threw your toys out of the pram, in other words.
Yeah, no, we've slight changes on some of the content coming out and when it's going to be coming out over the next couple of weeks, but we'll keep you all updated anyway.
Awesome. So if you haven't already, make sure you go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. What are we on now? I didn't actually check the subscriber count. We're heading towards 600. My God. And I just crossed 400 on my own channel as well. After doing nothing for 6 months.
All right, settle down. I think I could be wrong in this. I think we've passed you out for views as well.
Oh, you definitely have. You definitely have.
I
can't
wouldn't
check
say
that
definitely because you had a good few videos.
But I only have about 10 videos up that are actually generating any views. So I wouldn't. And they've been quiet for the last few months. So
yeah,
I'll give you that one.
But if you're still tuned in, be sure subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell all your friends as well if they're anyway involved in MMA or like MMA. Send them our direction. And you know yourselves, we get involved with the comment section and they can have a bit of fun with us.
So there you go, folks. That's been our show. We will see you on a Sunday night. Okay. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
I want to fight with Chuck. Chuck.
I think he just blew his wad there.
Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck.